Hey, this is Marc from Caliban, and you're listening to RichardMetalFan.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Richard Metal Fan Interviews. This is episode number 71, and today's guest we're talking to Marc from the almighty Caliban. Caliban are a metalcore band from Germany, been around since the late 90s. Today we're going to be talking with their guitarist Marc about basically the history of the band, pretty much what got him into metal, what made him want to start to play guitar, pretty much going through the albums and stuff. So without further ado, let's go talk to Marc.
Guten Tag, ich bin Richard MetalFan here with Marc from Caliban. How are you doing today, Marc?
All right, a bit stressed, but fine. Finally home.
Yeah, finally. I know we had this scheduled for a while ago, but then of course now we're finally got this done.
Yeah, sorry for that, but things have been crazy lately for us here.
It's all good, man. So basically this format is I want to do a rundown of your catalog as well as your musical journey from where you start to now. But before we go into that, I want to dive right back into the very beginning. What were the first bands that got you into metal and what made you want to start playing guitar?
That is hard to say. I think when I was very, very young, I started with death metal bands. Like when I was around 12, I was on my first concert from Bolt Thrower and Benediction, this kind of death metal stuff. But that's not when I started playing guitar. Actually, this kind of new school hardcore got me more into playing guitar. And also, not only that, no, that's actually not true. Like getting me to play guitar were bands like Machine Head, Slayer, Metallica, and stuff like that. Not all of that I listened still up until today, but these bands were like making me want to play guitar, and I bought these kind of like tab books and stuff like that from the Burn My Eyes record in the past and stuff like that. And I started actually playing guitar kind of late. You know, I'm late to the party with that. And bands like these kind of new school bands like Earth Crisis, Snapcase, and these kind of bands, they made me actually start a band, being in a band. So that is actually that would be actually correct to say.
All right. And were you in any bands before starting up Caliban, or was Caliban your first band?
I mean, we were running through a couple name changes and lineup changes, but it actually is somehow the same. This the first band, if you want to say it, if you want to say that this way. But I actually had side projects. Like I had a couple besides Caliban or whatever the band name at that point was. I had a couple side projects with other friends, and like 2 or 3, which at some point we never continued with. So and then just Caliban, went on. You know.
Yeah. And how did Caliban form? Because you all formed in '97 in Germany.
It's actually a school band, to be honest. Like I joined, like it was a very a completely school band at first, and then at some point the music became more heavy. The band wanted to do more heavy music, and then I joined, and then the singer Andy joined, and a couple lineup changes. And then it wasn't like a full school band really anymore. We just had our rehearsal room in the school, practice room in the school. And that's how we started off, actually pretty young. I was playing like 2-3 month guitar once I joined the band, maybe a bit more, half a year maybe maximum. We were really shitty in the beginning.
Oh, wow. Yeah, but then, of course, in '97, from what I saw in the Metal Archives, you did 2 songs for a demo called Never Again, but that was never released publicly. Was that like something that you just did for your first label, I believe was Life Force?
We actually had it printed as a cassette, to be it was so you can say it somehow was released to the public, not through a label or something. We just had a company there. I don't remember that name anymore. We just ordered like 300 copies or something and sold them for very cheap on local shows and stuff like that, you know. And that was, like you said, called Never Again. And actually, because of this demo tape, Life Force Records wrote me or called me actually at some point. It was like, because my phone number, my old phone number, was in that cassette as contact, was my address and my phone number. And then someday the guy from Lifeforce Records said, "Hello, it's Rüdiger from Lifeforce Records. Is this Mark?" I was like, "What?" Like, it was really like, "What? Who are you?" Like, "Yeah, I'm from Lifeforce Records." So I was like, "Yeah, sure," somehow. And yeah, and then we were talking a bit, chatting a bit, and then he said he picked up demo somehow, and he got his hands on it, and he liked it. And if we have a label already, and if there are any plans to be serious with the band or something, and then he invited us to play a concert close to where he lives. To actually, he said actually he never signs a band before seeing the band live.
Yeah.
And so he invited us to play a concert. And that was with the band, which became later on Heaven Shall Burn. That was funny. That was our first East German show. I think they played under their old name. It wasn't Heaven Shall Burn yet. They had 3 guitar players.
Wow.
What was it? It's Consens?
Yeah, I think it's Consens. I had Mike on here a few months ago.
Yeah. It was Consens. And then that was the first time I met Mike, for example. But actually, because the show took like a couple months to take place, like he was talking, "Hey, can you play a show?" And then it was still 3-4 months away. And he was asking me if I have some more demos and recording stuff. And I sent him a couple things, which we actually recorded just live with the tape recorder in the rehearsal room. And then he said, "Ah, whatever. Fuck that. We just I want to sign you straight away. I mean, you're gonna play here in 2 months, but I like the demo stuff so much. So just let's make a deal or something." And then we signed. We signed a record deal with him, played the concert, and pretty soon after he booked a studio for us in I think it was in Hamburg or something. No, Bremen. It was in Bremen. And we recorded our first mini CD.
Yeah, which was the self-titled EP. How did that whole thing come to be, the whole writing and recording process?
It was really chaotic. Like, and also it didn't turn out, the sound quality didn't turn out the way we thought it would be, because this studio was supposed to, that studio was kind of like famous for a certain type of sound, which here in in the north of Germany, a couple of bands had, and they were going there. And then we booked that studio. When we came there, it was a different engineer. It was just the same room, and we didn't get that kind of sound. And then the sound we made wasn't actually what we were aiming for, but it was really chaotic. Like, we drove there on a weekend. We slept in the what was it called? You can't say, like, in the, not waiting room, I want to say living room of the studio somehow. We had some blankets with us, some like air mattress and stuff like this, and we were hanging out there for like, I think Thursday to Sunday or something like that, and recorded, mixed everything like really, really fast through, recorded and played everything pretty quick. And the songs, the records, I mean, in the past, that was maybe the only time when we mostly were in the rehearsal room, not really jamming, but writing the stuff in the room. Like, I mean, I prepared always the guitar, the riffs at home and stuff like that. But very soon after that, we switched to like that I prepared most of the stuff at home, and then we just put everything together in the room, in the rehearsal room. So and since we didn't have a label, we had many songs actually. So I don't remember which songs how we picked the songs, but by the time we signed to the label, we had already like 10, 12 songs. So we just picked a couple, and finalized a couple things, and so I don't really remember how we wrote each of these songs, because I think one of the songs which is on that EP was already a year old or something, so
wow.
I don't remember.
Yeah, and then of course, I guess all the other songs ended up being on A Small Boy in a Gray Heaven.
yeah, that's the first full length. Yeah.
Yeah. How did that whole thing come to be being the debut full length Caliban album?
That was the first time we went to a studio where we have recorded 3 albums, 2 or 3, at least 2. Oh no, and the minis, the split CD also. I don't know. It was close to us. A studio, I would say a more professional studio. I mean, not like later in the days, like not like 2-3 records after, but definitely a lot more professional studio than the very first. And we took our time and to write more stuff. I mean, we had already some songs left. We didn't put on the EP, so we just had to write a handful more so that we had already the first full length. You know, we put like 5 or 6 on the EP. We had like 5, 6 left. We did some fine tuning and wrote a couple more and put that on the full length, you know.
All right. And what was the whole touring like for the first album? Did you all like tour outside of Germany at all, or just stay local?
Actually, I mean, in the very beginning, we used to play a lot of like DIY shows, very small shows, like at this place. I don't know, do you do that in the States, or did you do that in the past at this YMCA kind of places?
Yeah, I guess.
Like this kind of youth centers, hospitals, kind of things. I don't know how to call that in America, but we have like each town usually has like a place where some teenagers hang out, which is like usually handled by the government, that they have some activities like table tennis and some football game, and they have usually a building, stuff like that, and then they sometimes have some events, some little concerts and stuff like that. And usually these were the places we started, actually. Also a couple times already together with Heaven Shall Burn, playing a couple shows here and there, you know. And then it started on the, I think actually with the first CD, with the EP, we already toured in Spain, because our record label boss, like Rudiger at that time, he was from East Germany, and that was not so early after the border opened, you know, to East, West. So he said, I never saw the ocean, so we're going to do a Spain tour. I come with a van to you guys, pick you up, and we go to Spain. We're like,
wow,
okay, you know. And then he came.
That's awesome, man.
Then he came by with the van, and we did like on the way to Spain 1 or 2 shows to get there, and then we actually played 6, 7, 8 very small, some of them very small shows in Spain, really DIY.
Wow.
And yeah, then we went back home. That was our very first tour, you know. That was the tour had really, like, the turnouts has been from very, very low to very good, so really weird. For example, we played in some barn somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Spain. There were like maybe 20 kids, 30. And then we played in Bilbao, and there were like 400. We were like, what? How did that happen? You know,
yeah.
like, but it was more like a thing. Like, there's some not all of these people knew us. You know, it was like there's a metal band or a hardcore band which is playing. We don't have anything else to do, so all of us, let's go. You know, that was like why it was more full. You know, some of the shows. Yeah, that was the first tour, and then we played. We never really did in the very beginning years full cycle, like tours, like 30 days in a row or something. It was like the weekends, you know.
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday sometimes, you know, and then back home. And just when a couple years later, when it became more professional and this kind of music was more kind of established, it became like when actually with the release of the Shadowhearts album, that's when we started really touring, like 2 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row, you know. Like before that it was mostly weekenders and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I know, like, of course in 2000, like you mentioned, touring with Heaven Shall Burn, like you did I know you did like a splits even like before, like the first one, like before, I mean, you did a couple after that. How did you all decide to like do splits? Because I know you all are buddies and stuff, so I guess you're like, you know, well, let's do like a split collab.
Yeah. We're like, yeah, it was like really like we hang out all the time, we play shows together all the time. Why not have why we don't release like a split together, you know? That's that was just the logical step. And then we actually still talking about a part 3 every time we see each other. It's like, hey, when is the part 3 coming along? Yeah, funny, when is it? You know, like, it's always like that. And we always both bands get constantly asked in interviews, when is the split 3 coming out? You know, and it's like actually funny because both of our bands put out an album not too long ago.
Yeah.
And both bands had like tons of interviews, and in almost every minimum every second interview, people asked about, hey, when is Heaven Shall Burn Caliban Split 3 coming out? It became like some kind of running gag somehow, you know.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm not even gonna bug you about that.
No, it's just, I just told you, we just don't have time really to I mean, I think it's safe to say that people out there can be sure there will be a part 3, but we just don't know when.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
they will be at some point.
Yeah, and then moving on to the second album, Vent, which of course with the first album you have your entire life to write it, but when it comes to Vent, did you feel like pressure to follow up A Small Boy in the Gray Heaven?
Sorry, what?
Like when it came time to release Vent, did you feel pressure to follow up A Small Boy in the Gray Haven?
No, actually, this kind of pressure thing I never feel somehow. You know, I or we always write the music we want to write, and if we feel these are the songs we want to put out, we put it out, no matter if people think it's maybe not as good as the one before or better than the one before, heavier, it's more soft, whatever. You know, it's like that's what we wanted to put out always, and that's what we have been sticking to our entire career somehow. I mean, of course, I have to myself, how to say, I pressure myself for my own taste somehow always. I want to be a better songwriter. I want to write a better album, but not like in a perspective of I want that the fans like it better. You know what I mean? Yeah. I wanted that we are more happy with it. I wanted to always expand the musical horizon. I wanted to release, for my taste, a better album. And this is what we have been keeping doing. Otherwise, I wouldn't put out an album, you know. Sometimes I write 30, 40, maybe more songs until I'm happy with the 10, 12 we put out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely agree. And then next album is Shadow Hearts, and of course, I think you switched labels. You got signed to Prosthetic Records. How did they find you guys?
Actually, Prosthetic is only in America. Like in Germany and the rest of the world, it's still Lifeforce Records. So we never signed to Prosthetic at that point. It was that
just a distribution thing or something.
Yeah. Our label Lifeforce just did the license deal with Prosthetic, so we actually never had really much to do with Prosthetic. So it was licensed to that because he thought he doesn't have the power to release it in the States as good as it has to be somehow. But yeah, I don't know anything about that, to be honest.
Yeah, and I know next year will also be the 20-year anniversary of that album. And I wanted to ask, is there like a chance we can get a celebration of that album somehow?
I don't think so, to be honest. Shadow Hearts is still one of my favorite albums we ever have put out. That ends also the maybe I'm a bit ahead of the questions you have maybe, but for me, we have 3 different periods of the band. That's the first, which ends with including Shadow Hearts. The next is Small Boy in a Gray, the Opposite from Within, until Say Hello to Tragedy. Yeah, Say Hello to Tragedy. And then we have Am Nemesis until today.
Yeah.
So for me, the part 2 in the middle is really not my cup of tea anymore. So many fans are always shocked about that, because I always say, because they ask, oh, when you're going to do a tour where you play only the Opposite from Within album, and then I have to say, oh, never, you know. Because I mean, Shadow Hearts is one of my favorite albums, especially because I still like the first period of the band and the last. The ones in between is not really my taste anymore. It's not that I think I didn't think it at that time, but my music taste somehow changed, so it's not my cup of tea anymore. And because we always progress during the time, I mean, if you listen from the very first album until the very last album, you can see it's still the same band because you can hear the progression. But if you hear like the Small Boy Negro Heaven and then, for example, Elements, it's two different bands somehow, because it's a huge step between, it's many albums in between. And because we do like each album we change a bit, because this is just the musical path we wanted to go at that point. And it felt right, for example, at the time to put out the Undying Darkness, for example, but I wouldn't put out, I couldn't write a record like that today anymore, you know. So we also don't play many of these songs anymore these days, you know, because it's first off, we have many albums which people want to hear songs from, especially the latest ones, obviously, because people want to mostly hear the fresher stuff. And also, even since I'm Nemesis, up until today, it's also already 5 albums, you know, and we can't play the song from each record we put out, because then we play like forever somehow, you know, and it's just that we don't enjoy as much playing those songs anymore. I mean, we play a handful, like 2-3 songs we always play here and there, but yeah, I don't think that the Shadow Hearts tour is going to come. I mean, even if it's still one of my favorite albums, I don't think that we ever do this kind of like an album tour. We talked about maybe do like a tour to the Zeitgeist EP, which is only German, reimagined old songs, that we do a tour in Germany where we play only the German tracks, just as a one-time special, but not like, for example, the Shadow Hearts or Undying Darkness tour or Awakening tour, stuff like that. I don't think we're going to do that.
Yeah, just try it. It's so pretty much every album's like an evolution. Like, it's not like a picking up where you left off. It's always just like a natural progression for Caliban, right?
Yeah. And also we have the experience, like, of course, there's always people asking, can you play some of the old stuff? Can you play some of the old stuff? And we did some anniversary show some years back, and it was also together with Heaven Shall Burn, because we have the same anniversary. So we did an anniversary together with them. And some people asked, oh, can you play some old school stuff from this and this and this and this? And we thought, okay, it's an anniversary show, so we should pick up some old stuff. So we actually did one medley of like 6 or 7 old tracks.
Wow.
And we did 2 old tracks besides the normal set, you know, like we did a medley, which was like 8 to 10 minutes, which included a couple of the old songs and then 1 or 2 other songs which were old. And actually, to be honest, like it included also stuff from the first album, from the second album, maybe third album, but mostly this old stuff. And then really 99% of the people of the crowd looked at us and were like, what is that?
Yeah.
What are these songs? Never heard that.
Yeah.
What are they doing? Skip that, you know, like really, like, and you could see there like 10 kids having crazy fun, and the other 990 were like, never heard that song, you know, like it was. So you try to please sometimes fans, but we noticed that when we play the very old stuff, like from Small Boy Negro Heaven or something, 99% of the people who are the fans today don't know that anymore.
Yeah, because I'm guessing they discovered you all like later on another album and stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff, and I'm pretty sure like everybody in America doesn't really know who Caliban are, and I show these guys are, and it's like, man, this is a great newer band. I'm like, these guys have been around since like the early 90s. They've been around even longer than Killswitch Engage and Shadows Fall. Yeah. Yeah, and with so many albums that you guys have out now, does it get like harder to put like a set list together when playing live?
Yeah, that becomes really hard, and also causes arguments in the band even. Because, it's like, we want to play this and this. I want to play this and this. Oh, but we haven't played this song in 5 years. Yeah, but I hate that song. Somehow like that, you know. I mean, not hate that song, but hate that song to play live. You know, I have, for example, for my taste, but I think that's for everyone in the band the same thing. I have a couple of songs which I really like listening to. I think it's a good song, but I don't like to play it live. and also the other way around somehow, you know, and yeah, and then it becomes really hard. And I was saying we have to play this and this song from the new album, and then yeah, but we have to throw this and this song in. And last time, one of the last festivals we played, we had a total chaotic set list, and then afterwards I was like, man, that was so stupid what we put together there, because everyone wanted to have a word in it, and then it became totally chaotic because we had a ton of different tunings from one song to another. Each song had a different tuning, and then there were like in Spain, I think 3 German songs in a row and stuff like that. But why were you playing 3 German songs in Spain? It's 1 or 2 is enough, you know, like from 10 songs, and then all in a row, and then we jumping through crazy tunings, like from drop A to B standard to C standard to drop F, and it's like, what, you know? And it's usually we see that we have like 2 drop A in a row, 2 standard B, then go back to drop A, or some logical that you don't have to retune your guitar or pick a different guitar each song, and it was completely chaotic. So we have really,
that sounds like a shit show. That
I mean, the show was actually great, but it was really chaotic, and we have to do that somehow different next time.
Yeah. Yeah, but then going with the next album, The Opposite from Within. I think the first time where it was like a quick turnaround, did you like starting writing The Opposite from Within after Shadow Hearts was released?
Yeah. After that, like, I mean, we just continued, like, I always have a little bit of a break after an album, like half a year, 9 months of a break of writing after we release an album, and then I just start writing. That has been up until today. It's always the same process somehow, and then and then I gather ideas, and then I write pretty many songs. So that's how it was.
Yeah, and then I still think it's a great album. I think this is pretty much where Caliban became Caliban, with the sound-wise, with the guitars and musically, lyrically, everything is pretty much where you pretty much have like the sound, which from then up until now, I think you guys really have found it.
I would go so far and say that started with Shadow Hearts, and to my idea, but I get why you say that, actually, because it is more. I think from that album on, the songs became more organized, more, let's call it, organized, logical songwriting, somehow more easy to follow, maybe also like a repeating chorus and stuff like that. And before that, we were just whatever, we put some stuff together which we liked, whatever we thought is cool, you know. And then from that album on, we actually try to have like somehow like a more professional songwriting together, you know, like with a repeating chorus and stuff like that. And so I get why you say that.
Yeah, and I know with the previous album is also the first album with Dennis, because of course now he's doing the clean vocals as well. How did you hook up with Dennis? And I know Patrick also played on this album too. How did you hook up with those guys?
Actually, Dennis played on Shadow Hearts already.
Yeah.
He didn't sing though, but he played. At that point, when we switched from Shadow Hearts to Opposite from Within, we decided to be like a full-time band, and 2 members were not really up to it. You know, our drummer said, I can't do that. I have to study. My parents are going to kill me if I'm going to throw this away and stuff like that. And the bass player also was more about like a different career, and you didn't want to invest so much time, like, because we were about to be constantly on the road and stuff. And then we had to find committed people who are actually into being in a full-time band, you know. So that's why we made those changes, because actually the drummer by himself, he said, guys, we have to find a new drummer because I hold you back. When I see the tour schedule, I can't play this, and not this, and not this. What we're going to do about this, you know? I don't want you guys to always look for a fill-in and stuff like that. So let's make a cut here. But the bass player, it was more like it was a bit more difficult because he actually wanted to stay in the band and he wanted all of us to play less shows because he doesn't have so much time. We're like, we're not going to do that. We want to be on the next In Flames tour and we're going to do the Machine Head tour. And he's like, yeah, no, we can't tour because I don't have time. We were like, what? And so it became an argument at some point, because he wanted to stay in the band, but also didn't want to play the shows. We were like, you can't have both, either you play the shows because we have tons of tour offers and show offers, festival offers. You play them, or you have to leave the band, and then he made a huge drama. It's so long ago. I think he still hates us up until today because we said, man, we like you in the band. If you want to be in the band, then be in the band, but then play the shows with us. If you don't, then we have to kick you out because we have to play those shows. We can't miss on a 10-week Machine Head tour. It's career-changing tour somehow because you say, well, no, because there I write an exam here and then I want to do that. We're like, what do you want to do? It's not our fault. And then we had an argument. We had to kick him out somehow. And up until today, he's really telling people we both know, he says that we are assholes to kick him out of the band and stuff like that. He never mentioned that he was holding everyone back and he wanted us to not play tours, actually. He wanted to stay in a hobby band and he wanted us to do the same thing.
Yeah. It's either you're all in or you're not.
It's a bit selfish somehow.
Yeah.
A bit.
Yeah, but then going with the next album, The Undying Darkness, I think one of my favorite Caliban albums. What was it like going from Opposite From Within to The Undying Darkness?
To be honest, this is one of the albums I like least.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised. That's like one of my favorites.
What many people say. And I have a good friend, that's his favorite album. Wow. And he's always offended when I say that.
That's crazy.
We play, for example, the song Nothing Is Forever on it.
Yeah. I like the production
better. I like the production better on that song, on that album. That is true. And I like a couple things better. But this is the only album when we finished it when I wasn't sure if I'm 100% happy with it. That is the only album in the whole career when I thought that. And maybe a tiny bit the Say Hello to Tragedy. But the Say Hello to Tragedy is a different story because there you hear that after Say Hello to Tragedy, we made a pretty big change to Am Nemesis because I wasn't happy with the path the band was going, and then I made a little bit more of a drastic change to Am Nemesis. There was a bigger time gap. I wrote more songs, and somehow for me, from Am Nemesis on, it's Caliban 2.0 because I made a lot of changes. But I can't really tell you why, but this album is really one of my least favorites. I can't tell you why. It's hard to say why. There are some of the songs on the album I really, really like, but there are also a couple songs I really, really think are boring. For example.
Yeah, one of my favorite songs on this album is the song called I Rape Myself, and I love that. And I don't know if you're familiar with the band As I Lay Dying. I know I think you did some tours. They have a song, well, a year prior, they have an album called Shouts of Security, and they have a song called Meaning in Tragedy. Like, the opening riff sounds so much like the riff in I Rape Myself.
This is also a reason because I found that out after the album was released that this song, for example, there were two songs on the album which had similarities, and that's why I immediately started to hate these songs.
Oh, wow. I never knew that.
Because it wasn't intentional. It was by accident somehow, maybe unconscious or something. And actually, the songwriting after this album also changed a bit because, don't get me wrong, I think As I Lay Dying is a great band. That's not the reason why, but I didn't want that people think that we just copied their songs. you know.
Yeah.
And from that album on, when I was in the songwriting process, I stopped listening to other music entirely. I don't listen to music to other bands on purpose, not even radio or something, because I want to be focused on what I do.
Exactly.
And I don't want to be even unconsciously somehow inspired by something, because sometimes you have something in your mind, you play that, oh, it's a cool riff, it's a cool song, and then you play it to a friend and says, oh, I heard that's Lamp of God. It's like, you know, like, it's a lot of Lamp of God. It's like, what? And then you hear the song, oh, damn it, I think I heard that song 4 weeks ago, and now it's somehow stuck. It's somehow, you know, can happen. So this is why, because I know that there are a couple of similarities on this album, and this is also why this is one of my least favorite albums, to be honest.
Yeah, but I know it's also the first album with the current lineup that you all have today, and you pretty much still, I think since 05, you pretty much had the same lineup. What keeps you guys going still strong after almost over 15 years later, or 16, 17?
I think first off, because we grew older, and we also don't have, we are not a band which always constantly hangs out together. We live pretty far from each other. It's like the drummer lives like 2 hours from here. The singer lives 3.5, 4 hours from here. The only guys which are close to me are the bass player and the guitar player. And I sometimes see the bass player. We sometimes have like some barbecue evening or something, but it's pretty rare, like once every 3 months, maybe, you know. And sometimes we hang out. His girlfriend is a very good friend of mine. He actually knows her through me because she's one of my best friends. And so, but in general, it's like we don't sit all the time together. We don't hang out all the time together. We have a lot of different interests, personal interests, you know, hobbies and stuff like that. So I think otherwise you might get tired of people, you know, when you hang out like with the same people for 15 years, and then you get pissed off by some habits they have, or what was some stuff they do and stuff like this. And because for us, we meet mostly only for this purpose of music, you know, like we tour together, we make music together and stuff like that. But it's not like that we hang out and go to cinema every second week or something, because we just mostly also for the fact because we don't live close to each other. It's way too far, you know. So we all have our own lives and stuff like that, and this is why that's why we can still hang out as a group, you know. It's not like that everyone is annoyed all the time, you know.
And then the next album is The Awakening, kind of similar from going from Shadowheart Stops to From Within. It's a quick turnaround, like only a year after. I'm guessing, did you write The Awakening after The Undying Darkness was released?
Yeah, The Undying Darkness was really quick. That's also one of the things, you know, I felt like rushing through. This is also like, and we took a bit more time for The Awakening, definitely. And then it started a bit of, like I said, the different songwriting, like I just previously explained, shutting out other influences, and I started writing music and producing music with Benny at that point, and we were going through a bit more through theoretical music, like chord progressions and stuff like that. You can hear a lot more of this logical progressions in melodic progressions in this album, I think. But it was somehow like 1.5 years later. So yeah, that is a different approach from that moment on.
Yeah, and I definitely dig that. But I really love the next album, Say Hello to Tragedy. And of course, first album you on Century Media Records. How did they find you guys?
We were at a point that our contract with Roadrunner Records ran out, because it was a 3-album contract, Opposite From Within, Awakening, and Undying Darkness. So these 3 were on Roadrunner Records here. I don't know if they were on Roadrunner Records in the States. I think that was a different label. But in Europe, it was on Roadrunner Records. I think it was a sub-label from Century Media in the States. Is that possible?
I think
Because
so. I think so. So that's
it's,
from all it says is Roadrunner, or from what I've heard.
I think it's Abacus in the States.
Yeah,
I
because
think Abacus was a sub-label from Century Media.
yeah, because they also put out the Undying Darkness, so I think you're right.
All right, yeah. So, and then our contract was finished, and we were having a chat with Roadrunner, and we didn't agree on the contract terms anymore. You know, like they wanted to do some changes in the contract. We wanted to do some changes in the contract, and both parties were not really up to give up on those changes, you know, and we didn't agree on things. There was no bad blood or something. We can, I mean, you hear a lot of things, people talking about labels, also about Roadrunner and stuff like that. We can't say anything bad about Roadrunner. They always have treated us well. The contract was fair. The one we had. I mean, it took like 9 months to negotiate the contract with the lawyer and with the management company.
Oh, wow.
But when we finally signed to Roadrunner, it was for both sides fair. They treated us well. They gave us a lot of support. We owe them a lot of, I mean, besides of course of Life Force Records, which in the beginning picked us up, discovered us somehow, but making us popular somehow in the mainstream metal world. I don't know how to call it, not the underground hardcore scene. Out of that, then we owe a lot of this to Roadrunner, because they put us on this Machine Head tour and put us in the main medias and stuff like this. And they have done a lot for us. But like I said, they wanted some drastic changes to the contract, also because America has usually different contracts than Europe, and they wanted to make the contract more like the American contract, that America can also release it under Roadrunner and stuff like that. And they were asking, for example, for some merchandise rights and stuff like that. We were like, hell no, we are not going to give any single % of our merchandise away. I don't know which bands do that, but I know that some bands on some labels give away some of their merch rights. I don't know if it's still a thing up until today, but we never did that.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before. I know if some venues, if you're playing live, they would take like a merch cut.
Yeah,
I've never heard it from the label.
Oh, yeah, there are definitely labels out there who ask for a merch cut.
Yeah, that's news
not
to
like
me.
not from merch what you sell on shows. That's not what I meant, but they ask for merchandise they can print in your name and sell it.
Wow, that's
you know,
crazy.
and many labels do that actually. You know,
yeah.
I mean, there are different terms, and which labels can ask for that. Maybe if they would offer you a fair cut, it's a different thing. But some labels, I don't know how it was with Roadrunner in the past, but I know that some labels even say, we get the right to make our own 10 merch designs, sell how many we want, and you don't get a single cent from that. You know, like,
that's
fucked
up.
And it's like, no. You know, and we were a band, we never gave away any single at least not like that, any single merch right. You know, I mean, Century Media has one or two exclusive shirt designs they're allowed to sell, but they're like under certain conditions and stuff like that we agree on and stuff like that. Not just that they print how much ever they want and sell it to the whole world and we get nothing, you know. Because some, like I said, some especially major labels, some do that. But anyways, so yeah, that was the cut with them. And then we actually had a normal chat and no hard feelings. We actually had a nice farewell dinner somehow. They invited us, hey, come, go to a restaurant, we invite you guys. We had a nice time with you, couple years, like 6 years together. And then we were going to some Indian restaurant with the band, the manager, 2-3 people from Roadrunner were there, and then we had dinner, and then we shake hands and pathways, you know, like part ways.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then we were collecting offers from Nuclear Blast, I think it was Metal Label, I'm not 100% sure, and one other, and then also Century Media, and then we made the decision to sign to Century Media at that point.
Yeah, and I know also your fellow German metalers in Heaven Shall Burn are also on the same label
Yeah,
too. So it's cool to be
yeah,
label mates with your buddies. Buddies,
yeah.
it's always like a metalcore band from Germany is always going to get signed to Century Media.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. But then in between Say Hello to Tragedy and I Am Nemesis, you did like a little cover EP called Cover Hill. What was the idea to like make an EP of cover songs?
It was supposed to be an album actually, but I don't know about the rules in America. But here we have certain rules what you're allowed to cover and who has to give you permission for that and stuff like that. Actually, we had like 10 songs planned, but that didn't work out, and so it became an EP. But like I said before, I wanted to make like a more drastic change when I was writing the I'm Nemesis album. So at some point, I had like almost the album completely finished, and then somehow I wasn't satisfied because I wanted a drastic change from Say Hello to Tragedy to the next. Like I said, I wasn't really happy anymore with the path the band was going. And then I wrote one song, and that was Memorial. And then I saw enough. That was like the 12th of, like, I don't know, 13th finished song or something. And then I said, okay, that is actually where I want to go. The style, the sound of the song Memorial is what I want the album to be like. So I called the guys and said, okay, I threw away the album. I'm writing a new one. So actually I threw away the whole album, just kept the song Memorial, and continued writing from that moment on. Like then Davy Jones was the second, Boogeyman was the third, and then then it became this album.
Yeah.
And all the other songs were like, all the other songs were like trash can. And then the band was like, what are we going to do and stuff like that, let's do some, but that's going to take ages. And then we threw in this kind of cover, because we always like to make an interpretation of other bands, and the same way we have sometimes guest vocalists and stuff like that. So we decided that the other guys kept also being busy while I was making another album again, because I threw away most of the album. We decided to have this EP then in the end, like a cover, some cover tracks.
Yeah.
And while I was simultaneously writing again the I'm Nemesis album.
Yeah.
So because it was taking longer.
Yeah, and I love the cover EP. One of my favorite songs that you all covered was "Blinded by Fear" by At the Gates. That's a really good, and I love how you did like a fucking Beatles cover, which is kind of out of nowhere. But I just think it sounds fucking awesome. Like you definitely make it like your own in a way.
Yeah,
Hey,
there were a couple others which somehow there was a song. It was from U2, the band U2, Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, this Batman soundtrack.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite covers, and we didn't get permission. We were like, what?
Damn.
Why not? And then we were told, yeah, the band doesn't really like to have cover songs, and blah. We're like, oh, whatever, fuck that, like it was one of my favorite songs of the cover tracks, and that one we had to cut off.
Yeah, I would have loved to hear that.
That was really cool, but yeah, unfortunately I don't even find the MP3 wave version from that song anymore. I don't have it anywhere.
Wow.
It's lost.
Yeah, lost in like the sea of somewhere. Yeah, but then going back to I Am Nemesis, I love this album, and believe it or not, this was the album that I discovered you guys on, and I think this is pretty much your most diverse sounding album, being that this is now 10 years old. This came out like right around the time like I was still about to graduate from high school. It's a great album.
Thanks.
How is that whole like album like? And I think that pretty much set the groundwork from like this from there up until the Dystopia.
Yeah, that's what I meant with what I explained with the third period. This is like Caliban 2.0 for me, because like I said, when I wrote this Memorial song, that the rest of the album isn't really what I wanted it to be, and then I rewrote everything. So I would say to finish this album, I wrote probably like 45, 50 songs in total, and not finalized, but in a rough version to finally find where it has to be. And yeah, this is still up until today one of my favorite albums. The production is great. The roughness somehow, the how everything goes together is really cool. You know, it has a lot of energy. This is what I really like about this album. And this is what I like about Dystopia, because I try to combine somehow the very old Caliban, like Shadow Hearts and stuff like that, with, and then stuff like from Am Nemesis together with the stuff from Elements a bit, you know, to make a combination of the old school vibes into the Dystopia album. This is why the Dystopia is a bit more dark and a bit more heavy, like maybe previous albums before. And yeah, still one of my favorite albums.
Yeah, which we'll get there in a second. But one thing I love, I think this is the first album where you did like a song, well, mostly German, the song Den Rick. Rick, what made you decide to like do a song in German?
Yeah, that is pretty simple to answer, because we did this Rammstein cover before,
Yeah,
on this cover field. And then we discovered that Andy actually sounds great in German. He never wanted to sing in German because he said, I'm sounding stupid in German. We're like, we are sure you don't. And then we had this Rammstein cover, and then he heard it, and he actually, oh, it's maybe not too stupid. And then we started to have this like our own German influence on usually one song on each album, you know.
yeah, definitely. And then the next album is Ghost Empire. What was that like going from I Am Nemesis to Ghost Empire? Did you feel like more comfortable like songwriting? Because you mentioned this is like the current period that you started from I Am Nemesis to now.
Yeah, that was really like that. The songwriting for that album was definitely much more easy than it was for I Am Nemesis, because I knew which path I want to continue with the band. I didn't have to find the new sound again, which I did with the previous album. So it's for me like the logical next step from I'm Nemesis somehow, you know, and it has somehow like a bit of some kind of like a country vibe somehow in it.
Yeah.
In a bit, I don't know how to say, like some kind of Western influence somehow, more like, I don't know how to describe that, but some sound effects and stuff like that push it a bit into this roughness. But yeah, that was for me the next logical thing, just, you know.
Yeah, and then Gravity, I love that album too. And I believe it was the first time where Andy actually does clean vocals on that, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken. How did he end up like doing singing? Because I know Dennis does the main stuff, but then now Andy is stepping up doing clean singing.
We wanted because Andy's cleans, as you can hear, is more rough, more screamy, and we wanted to get rid of or go away a bit from this very heavy screaming, very soft singing, very heavy screaming, very soft singing. So we wanted it more like naturally flowing somehow. So we tried to have Andy sing most of the stuff, that there's not so much difference all the time, you know, not two different singers the whole time, that the energy level keeps a bit, even in the chorus, the energy level is more high than a very soft singing chorus. And this is why we actually try to have him sing most of the stuff.
Yeah, and I bet you with him sort of like just starting to do clean singing, does that pretty much opens up the new doors for stuff musically and stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and especially since of course you all have like clean singing and harsh singing. Do you ever have to like adjust like your guitar playing depending on the vocal styles?
Not really. No, not really. I mean, I don't think. I mean, the melodies changed a little bit towards this, but not as much. It's hard to say. Like I think, for example, the song Paralyzed could be easily also on the I'm Nemesis album, I think, and then maybe Dennis could have sing it, I would say.
Yeah, and I love the like guest appearances. One of my favorites is Elisa Whiteglass doing guest vocals on the Ocean's Heart. How did you end up hooking up with her to do a song?
Because the lyrics of the song, and we always like to have participants of other bands, you know, like having some guests to throw in their ideas of music, and yeah, like it's cool collaboration somehow. And we know that she's like vegan and she likes to be this animal activist, and she's especially is like supporting this kind of ocean thing, you know, where this kind of whale kind of thing, and yeah, it's a, if you read the lyrics, we actually sent her the request through, I think through Century Media, and she straight away said, oh, I love those lyrics, this is my, it's a great and important topic for me, I like the song, I definitely going to do that. She was really into it,
Yeah.
you know, and she created by herself the chorus line also.
Yeah, and then I still think it's a sick song. But then the next album is Elements, and I love that song. And I know on that album you did like some re-recorded versions of Dark Shadows and Forsaken Horizon. What made you decide to like do like re-recorded songs of songs you already done?
I don't know. We actually, what I actually mentioned before, this is one of our favorite songs from the past, and also from one of our favorite albums from the past. And we wanted to introduce this song again to people somehow, which like us today, which like the more recent albums. And we wanted like a proper recording somehow from that song, in a way, you know. So as I think it's a bonus track. It's only on the special edition, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we just threw in this as an extra, you know, because we always liked that song, and we still sometimes play that song, and that's why we actually made a new version to play it live, and that also the people who know only the last couple 4 or 5 albums maybe have like a real copy of that and get to know this song better.
Yeah. Yeah, and I still think it's sick. But then, of course, last year you released the Zeitgeist EP, which has some like newer different versions of like some songs in German. And what made you do like a full German release, or was that like planned, or was it just happened just right there?
It was actually supposed to be like a double CD from Dystopia somehow. It was supposed to be a bonus disc at some point, but with less tracks. And the idea got born when we got asked in a radio interview if we ever think about having like a German album, because we always have that one song on each album in German. But then we always liked the German songs we did. But since we started as an English language band and always have had only pretty much English lyrics, just to switch from English to German, since we play not only in Germany, we play in Belgium, we play in Spain, we play in America, we play in Japan, you know, and then we only have this German lyrics. Of course, one could say, yeah, but Rammstein does the same. But first off, we are not Rammstein, and second, Rammstein started with German lyrics and got known in these countries with German lyrics, you know. Like for an American, I think it would be also weird if you listen to a band which is singing German and then suddenly they sing only German in a strange language to you, you know. And then we thought that is somehow weird, and we would need to change the band name and stuff like that. And we also like English as for the lyrics and stuff like that. And then we thought about like having some special release, which is just a like I said, it was supposed to be a bonus disc to Dystopia, but then the pandemic came, and everything got delayed, and we couldn't tour. We didn't want to put out Dystopia without touring it and stuff like this, without playing shows. And then we decided to move the Zeitgeist, this kind of special release, forward. Not forward, like that we actually release that first, but have more tracks on it, because it was supposed to have like maybe 4 or 5, maximum 6 tracks as a bonus disc. Like something like a special edition, you know, like if you buy the stupid special edition, you have the second disc with these songs. And then we decided why we don't make more tracks and have it as a like independent release, as an EP. So we put out 8 tracks. So it actually has like 37 minutes or something, you know. So we decided, let's push back the release of Dystopia and work a bit more on more German tracks, and have at least some kind of sign of, hey, we're still here. Here is something we did in the meantime. It's an EP, it's German, it's something cool, something special for us. We always wanted to do. It's not like a full album, you know, but you know, so we have that. And yeah, and then that's why we threw that in between. So
Yeah.
actually that was actually our biggest gap between albums, because between Elements and Dystopia is 4 years. Usually we have 2 years in between, and this is 4. That is really, really long for us.
Yeah, and with Dystopia, being as it had been 4 years between Elements and Dystopia, did you consider just picking up where you left off, or is it almost kind of like a new beginning for Caliban in a way?
50-50 somehow, because we were supposed to have like a half a year to a year break after Elements. And right when we were actually supposed to be back on track, writing and recording, the pandemic came. So it got the planned 1 year break became like almost 3-year break. And but we actually started anyways on the songs. It just got interrupted by the Dystopia, by the Zeitgeister. We took some more time. Everything was more slow. The writing was more difficult, and because we couldn't sit all together in a room and play each other the ideas we have and stuff like this, and also with the producer, so it got really complicated. So in a way, I really like Dystopia, but the writing process I never want to repeat like we did on Dystopia, because I hated it, because it took so long and some stuff was so complicated. Because usually when I write a song, I have an idea how the vocals should be, and then I was sending the song to our producer who records the vocals, and then they recorded vocals, then they send it back to me, then I hated it, and then they had to do something again, because then it's like, no, this is not how I meant it. I think the lyrics, the vocals should be like this and this and this and that. Then Andy started to hate me because I was telling him that I don't like what he was doing, but we couldn't be together really. And it turned out the way we wanted it to be, but it was much more complicated, and it took a lot longer than usual. If we write usually an album, when we put together the vocals, for example, we sit together. I'm there at the vocal recording, I'm there, and then we sit together there and say, when he tries something in the vocal camera, said, maybe you should try this and this, it could be better, and then we work out somehow together to finalize it. And this time it was like they recorded something, they sent it to me, next day they had to go record again, send it to me again. It was really like annoying, so but to get back to the question, I don't think it's really a new beginning. Somehow maybe because of the break, but we actually made the album we wanted to make somehow. It's a combination of, like I explained before, and that's something we accomplished, I think. And especially when I read sometimes some comments that also some journalists actually pick up that, it sounds like somehow I feel like there's a vibe from your early days, like the Shadow Hearts. And it's like, yeah, thank you, because this is actually was my goal, to have somehow the Shadow Hearts vibe together with the Am Nemesis vibe, and then combined with the Elements kind of thing. This is what I wanted to accomplish with this album. And maybe because we had so much time, that was is more detailed as usual. Maybe I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, and with every album, do you always like to take a new approach? Like, I'm guessing you take a new approach. It's not like a formula that Caliban sticks with, right?
Yeah. I always like to have new influences in the music. For example, a big inspiration for me is like Muse, the band Muse, because the way he's creating soundscapes and the way he writes melodies and stuff like that. And this is something I also try to add in our music, especially I think Muse was a big influence in general when I was writing Am Nemesis for this kind of, because the vibe of the album, the melodies which were created, is a bit of the style in general of Muse, not like I said, not really songs were like an influence, because I don't listen, like I said, to music while writing, but in general, the way he creates soundscapes, I was really looking into that, how he's doing that, and was a pretty big inspiration. But I always look for new inspirations.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also so one thing I'm always curious about is like the label because of course Caliban is and of course also so Evan Shelburne is labeled as metalcore for me. I was always curious what is metalcore because I know I've asked people that and they always say oh it's just music with singing and screaming. I'm like okay so do you consider like Opeth metalcore or Fear Factory or Soilwork metalcore? But for you what is metalcore?
Everything and nothing somehow. I don't really care for categories, to be honest. Some people call it modern metal, some call it metalcore, some call it whatever. To me, it's hard to define. And to me, it doesn't really matter. For some people, we are metalcore. Some people call us deathcore. I don't know why. For some people, we are a metal band. So, and to be honest, I really don't care. I really don't care which category people think what music we do, because it's we all like heavy music, we all like metal music. Why we have to be so like this is metalcore, so I'm not allowed to like it. This is black metal. I'm not supposed to like black metal because my death metal fans told me to. Like stupid.
That's
What?
ridiculous. Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. It's like there's always it should be
So
like
I don't care. I listen to everything I like. I listen to black death, anything, and I don't care what category it is.
yes.
For example, Behemoth, is it death metal? Is it black metal? Does it matter?
Yeah, yeah, and there's always the subgenres. There's always like the blackened death and metal,
Ah,
which it's just it's ridiculous. So
yeah, and
like
then
there should
everybody has a different opinion. And then some people say, yeah, but Dimmu Borgir is pop black metal. A real black metal fan is not allowed to like them. So
yeah.
you don't, then whatever. Like I said, to me, it's hard to define what is. I would, if you really want to bring it down, I think what you said, the screaming, the singing, but I think music-wise, it's like this, which plays a lot of the opposites of melodic and heaviness and fastness, but also, which is maybe most characteristic, might be the breakdown stuff. Like, because Opeth and In Flames or At the Gates, they don't really have this kind of really chuggy breakdown stuff, at least not as much. So this is maybe a lot of characteristics. These are a lot of characteristics for this deathcore, metalcore, and anything which has like a bit of a core influence, if you want to call it that way. That might be the breakdown stuff, maybe,
Yeah.
if there really has to be something.
Yeah, totally. And kind of like switching topics, like kind of like going into your live show. Is there like a similar energy to playing live as to opposed to recording, or they're kind of almost two separate entities?
I really like the energy from the fans, and really like live shows and stuff like that. And I think inside the band we have really different opinions. I think, for example, our drummer is all about live. He hates studio stuff. I really enjoy studio stuff. So for me, it's hard to say. I might pick even studio stuff because I like to see how things come together, how things get created, and then finally at some point you have the final result that is really satisfying somehow. A long process, and I really like that because yeah. So it's hard for me to make a decision. Of course, we all do that in general to make concerts, but I really enjoy this kind of studio and writing time. And but that's just me, like, for example, for our drummer, that's the completely opposite. It's like, oh, we have to do a new album, I hate it already. It's like, I mean, of course he likes the songs in the end, he likes how it comes together, but he always he's not the studio type of guy. He's like, it's maybe too impatient. He wants to go out there, play the songs live, and it's not really. Yeah, he also said that in interviews before that he hates recording, and he always hates me, definitely, also during recording, because I have specific ideas how a fill should be, how the kick drum patterns should be to a specific guitar pattern. And then he's like, I don't know what you want from me. And then he gets up and sticks his drumsticks in the wall and leaves. So we had that situation at the Am Nemesis.
I could imagine that, man.
He was sitting there at the Am Nemesis recording, and we were sitting, no, that's not right. That's not correct. You have to play again. That's also not correct. The kick drum, there's one kick drum too much. Now it's one missing. It's like, what? I did like 5 or 6. We're like, no. You did 4 or 6, but it has to be 5. It's like, that's not. And then he got so frustrated, he got up and threw the sticks away. He's like, I'm going home, you know. And he just left.
I
He
could
just
imagine that
really
be like,
left. It
screw
was
you
early.
guys, I'm going home.
It was. I don't know. It was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, like, I'm out. They were like, what are you doing? He's really gone. He really left. He just came back next day as if nothing happened, but he just left.
Oh wow.
So, so there you can see how much he hates sometimes studio.
Yeah, and just kind of wrapping everything up. I want also one thing I love is like coming from Germany. I think the Germany has like a great metal scene, especially with your style of metalcore. Like you and Heaven Chopper, and I'm pretty sure there's like other metalcore bands there that I'm not aware of. But then there's also like the tech death scene with like Obscura, and then there's the thrash scene with like Creator.
Yeah.
Destruction, Sodom, and Power Metal with like Blind Guardian. I'm guessing like each part of Germany has a very diverse scene, and I feel like each part of the country has like its own scene in a way.
Not really. No, it's not. Each part of the country has its own. The creator is also from Essen. Miller is a good friend of mine. He lives like 10 minutes from here.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's always doing pre-productions in my studio, the creator stuff. So it's really the Ruhrpott area where I live. It's called Ruhr area. You know, there are a lot of bands like thrash bands, hardcore bands, metalcore bands. Then some guys from the band Nasty, this kind of beatdown hardcore band, is also living half an hour away, stuff like that, you know. So I wouldn't say that each part of Germany has its own scene. That is more like mixed everywhere, you know.
Yeah, and the one of the cool thing is I love about Germany is like when I think of Germany, I also think of like other countries like Sweden has like the Swedish death metal scene with
Yeah,
like At the Gates and the
that is true.
Dark Tranquility and Soilwork. But then there's also like the old school like British heavy metal scene. But now I just think of like the metalcore bands like Bury Tomorrow and Ocean's 8 Alaska and While She Sleeps and Architects. But before there's always like the classics like Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and Motorhead. But it almost kind of seems like Germany has like a huge movement, almost like here in the U.S. I feel but like I mentioned before, like each part has like a different like style. But I feel like, of course, like in America, like the New York has the hardcore scene, like Florida has like the old school death metal scene, and then Seattle has the grunge scene, and then Los Angeles has the glam scene. It seems like here, like U.S. and Germany are kind of similar, and we have like diverse styles of metal.
Yeah, I mean, I think what is most notable from Germany is probably the thrash metal. If it's one like kind of thing which people mostly know Germany for, is probably the thrash metal. Creator, Destruction, Sodom, all these bands, you know, they're all from pretty much from this area here, Holy Moses and stuff like that. I think this is the biggest export thing from Germany, was most unique, maybe, I would say.
Yeah, totally. And so before we go, I just want to thank you for this interview. It was a great conversation for you.
Thanks.
Of course, we have the latest album, which has been out now. Now it's just awesome. Is just anything else you'd like to promote in terms of like tours and stuff? And can we please have Caliban come and tour the States? I'm dying to see you guys play live.
Yeah, I mean, there's first of we have in November, December, we have a European tour. Most of the dates have been announced, but there is like a week, 1.5 weeks missing still from the tour, which gets announced very soon. But we hope to come back to the States next year, maybe summer next year, or like spring next year, or maybe fall next year. But we are talking about a 2023 American tour.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I really hope you guys play in Atlanta. I would be there, and I'll buy tickets in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I hope so. It's not cheap for us. It's very, very expensive for working permits and all that crap, you know, especially in the times like that. But yeah, if we get an offer from some promoter who can actually, that we can pull it off, that we can cover the cost and all that kind of things, then we for sure gonna be over there.
Awesome. So everybody, Marc from Caliban. We'll see you next time.